All right, let's jump right into this classic story of a massive identity swap. We're about to see what happens when a real king is forced to live like a nobody, and a poor boy is suddenly trapped in the life of royalty. It's a collision course, and things are about to get very, very real for both of them.
And this really gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the actual king, Edward, who's totally lost and powerless out on the streets of his own kingdom. And on the other, you've got the pauper Tom Canty, who's basically a prisoner in a palace full of luxury. It's just this perfect, tragic irony. Two boys, each trapped in their own kind of prison.
So let's follow the true king's journey first, okay? After getting booted from the palace, Edward, against all odds, gets a little bit of luck. He's taken in by this soldier, a guy named Miles Hendon, who gives him a safe place to crash. For now, at least.
And where do they end up? A simple traveler's inn. You know, just a place to get some food and a bed for the night. But you have to imagine, for Edward, this is a whole new world. It's about as far from the palace as you can get, but at this moment, it's the only safe place he's got.
But here's what's so wild. Even though he's dressed in rags and totally at this man's mercy, Edward still acts, well, like a king. He still expects to be served, to be obeyed. In his mind, he hasn't lost one bit of his royal authority. It's just who he is.
So you might be asking, why is Miles even helping this kid? Well, it turns out Miles has his own story of being wronged. See, he's the rightful heir to his family home, Hendon Hall, but his own brother cheated him out of it. So he knows exactly what it's like to have everything stolen from you, which is probably why he has a soft spot for this boy, claiming the same thing happened to him.
So when Edward hears Miles' story, what does he do? He makes a royal promise. He basically says, don't you worry. Once I'm back on the throne, I'll personally see to it that you get your home back. It's this incredible moment. One guy who's lost everything, promising to deliver justice for another.
And their whole relationship kind of comes to a head around Miles' sword. Now, a sword is a weapon, sure, but in this world, it's so much more than that. It's a symbol of honor, of loyalty, and the power to make someone a knight.
So to thank Miles, Edward performs a full-on royal ceremony. He makes Miles kneel, he takes the sword, and he knights him. Of course, Miles thinks he's just playing along with his kid's game, humoring him. But for Edward, this is completely real. It's an official act of his royal power.
Okay, let's leave that dusty inn behind and jump over to the total opposite, the unbelievably lavish Westminster Palace. Because now we're going to switch over to Tom Canty's perspective, as he wakes up not as a poor boy from the slums, but as the supposed King of England.
And his new reality is just enormous. That's the only word for it. He wakes up all by himself in this massive bed in a room that feels like a cave. It's not just the size, it's the feeling of it. The sheer scale of everything is the first thing that hits him, and you can just imagine how totally overwhelming that must be.
And the confusion starts immediately. A servant asks him if he'd like to rise, and Tom is just baffled. He's like, "What? You mean get up?" This one little exchange says it all. The poor kid is so out of his element he can't even understand the fancy court language for something so simple.
I mean, get this. This just shows how absurd his new life is. It takes 3 servants just to get him dressed in the morning. 3. Can you imagine? This is a kid who's used to just throwing on some rags. This level of ceremony must have been absolutely mind-boggling.
And his day just gets weirder from there. First, breakfast is this whole complicated production with a team of servants. Then, he has to sit there and pretend he understands Lord Hertford talking about, state secrets. And finally, they make him sit down and forge the name Edward over and over on all these official papers he can't even read.
All right, let's snap back to the real king. Because while Tom has just lost in all this confusing luxury, Edward is about to be thrown into some very, very real danger. His little moment of safety? Yeah, that's about to come to a very sudden end.
So here's exactly how the trap goes down. First, Miles heads out to buy Edward some better clothes. While he's gone, this other boy, Hugo, shows up with a fake message. He tells Edward that Miles is waiting for him on a nearby bridge. And Edward, he's desperate to find his only friend, so he completely falls for it and runs right into danger.
So when Miles gets back, they tell him some kid named Hugo came with a message from a Miles Hendon. And you can just feel the ice in his veins when he shouts, "But I am Miles Hendon!" He realizes in that split second that Edward has been tricked, and he's now out there, all alone and in terrible danger.
So at this point in the story, we've got two boys who are both completely and utterly lost. One is lost in the dangerous back streets of London, and the other is lost in the suffocating, lonely halls of a palace. Their worlds could not be more different, but they share the exact same feeling. They are prisoners.
And his chart just lays out the contrast so perfectly. You've got Edward out on the streets in real physical danger, and all he wants is for someone to recognize him. Then you have Tom in a palace, surrounded by all the power in the world, but he's totally helpless and just wants to see his family. The big takeaway here is that even in these totally opposite situations, neither one of them has what they actually want.
Tom's new life can be summed up with this word right here: plenty. He has plenty of food, plenty of clothes, plenty of servants, more than everything than he ever dreamed of. But as we're about to see, the story makes a really important point. Having plenty is not the same thing as being happy.
Because all of that plenty means absolutely nothing to him. At the end of the day, his thoughts are just so simple and so sad. Yeah, the palace is beautiful and there's lots of food, but he just wants to see his sisters. He wants to play with his friends. He just wants to go home.
And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on, right? You've got one boy who's been stripped of all his power, and another who's being absolutely suffocated by it. So, which one of them is the real prisoner? It's a powerful idea to end on, and it makes you think about what freedom really truly means.